Good evening, everybody, including Councillor Ennis. Welcome to this meeting of the Policy Committee. Spring has sprung and it's all very wonderful outside, so I'm sure we'll all enjoy the evening afterwards. No chair's announcements. Item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any? Wonderful. Item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. Any comments on those? Then can we agree so that I can sign them as a correct record? Wonderful, thank you very much. Item 4, petitions and questions. No petitions, no questions tonight. Item 5, decision books. There have been none. So on to item 6, local authority housing fund. And I have the Assistant Director for Housing and Communities here to present the report. You come up. Oh no, it's disappeared. You better use it. Oh, you can use this one. You can be the chief executive. You can if you like. You can if you like. Might not end well.
Thank you, Chair. This report covers funding provided by DLUC through the Local Authority Housing Fund. It is to purchase 15 homes to be made available for Afghan and Ukrainian refugees, and in the longer term for wider general needs housing. The funding amounts to just under 2.5 million and match funding of 3 million is required from the council. It is proposed that this is made up of HRA borrowing and Section 106 receipts. Policy Committee are asked to endorse the signing of the MOU, to agree the funding, to approve budget of 3 million for the match funding and to agree spend of 5.5 million. The council already provides a great deal of assistance and support to asylum seekers and refugees in the town, and the acquiring of new homes will enable that support to go further. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Just flick your mic off. Councillor Emberson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thanks to the Assistant Director for introducing, covering the point of the report, and of course I support the recommended action. Always pleased to see government funding available and support us putting forward match funding to make this happen. The report notes all the work we have done as a council, and we know that this is a council in a town that supports refugees, and we have supported a number of resettlements to happen in the town, and we work with our voluntary sector community to make that happen. So really pleased to see this track, and I hope that Policy Committee will approve the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Emberson. I haven't seen any other indication. No. So I'm assuming everybody's all right. Good. Yes. Approved unanimously. Wonderful. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Assistant Director. Takes us on then to item 7, when I eventually find such a thing, which is the appointment of independent remuneration panel members. And I have the monitoring officer.
Thank you, Chair. This report is simply to ask for Policy Committee's approval to appoint 2 new further members to the independent remuneration panel, and also to advise that it would be our intention to advertise for a further member and to seek to appoint a further member to the panel to ensure that we will be quorate coming into the autumn when the panel does its work.
Thank you very much. Councillor Terry.
Not really anything to add, Chair. Delighted to see Jeanette Skeets and Sally Swift coming forward to the panel. I think in terms of the advertisement, I think we would be looking to advertise them on partners and so on, people that can come recommended to us. That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Wonderful. Thank you. Important that we keep the remuneration panel refreshed. And I know that some people are thinking about standing down and so on. So good to have some people who are keen to participate and be active. And they've done a lot of good work in recent years. Any other indications? No. Can I assume we're also unanimous in this? Yes. Wonderful. What an evening. What an evening. On to item 8. Southcote Library disposal, and I have the Assistant Director for Property and Asset Management.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so the proposal is to appropriate Southcote Library from the General Fund to the Housing Revenue account. It's part of a scheme for £3.8 million. Which will deliver up to 15 2-bedroom flats on the site. The site was declared surplus for operational requirements in August 2020, and Policy Committee resolved to dispose to Sovereign Housing Association, and that was on a conditional agreement for housing development. Following drawn-out contract negotiations, we agreed contract drafts in July 2022. And we've been pushing to exchange, but unfortunately in January 23, the council were advised by Sovereign Housing that they had reviewed their internal processes and they were withdrawing from the purchase. So just to make it clear, the site is in the MTFS as delivering a capital receipt. So officers have reviewed what the options are, and we've got a number of options. We could potentially go back out to market to the previous underbidders. This is not recommended as the market has moved on significantly, and the original marketing was in 2020. We could potentially remarket the property. This would take an additional 3 to 6 months for marketing, and then potentially another 3 to 6 months longer for looking at contracts. And then, of course, if we receive offers that are subject to planning, we could be looking at another 12 to 18 months for things to crystallise depending on planning. So the recommend option is to actually appropriate to the HRA for council housing development as mentioned. There is delegated authority to appropriate suitable sites for purchase of delivering new housing where the business plan has identified that it is cost effective to do so. The proposed scheme has been modelled within the 30-year HRA business plan, and officers have confirmed that it is financially viable. This meets the council's corporate priorities in terms of the housing strategy. So the recommendation is that we appropriate, and we have actually commissioned a Section 123 valuation, and it would be appropriate for the same value as the Section 123 valuation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Assistant Director. I had Councillor Leng, and if you'd say some nice words about Southcote as you proceed through your speech, that'd be much appreciated.
I don't know about that, Chair. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Officer Charendil, and Assistant Director for Property and Asset Management, to give her a full title. Yeah, to summarise, through no fault of our own, the site has been vacant since 2018, and the council looked at progressing with a housing association partner, I will mention Sovereign, who frustratingly recently informed the council that it proposed to withdraw at the last minute. We are, if the recommendation is accepted, we are undeterred, however, and now plan to push ahead with the council's own affordable housing project on this important site. So that's 15 two-bed flats, as mentioned, council housing, which is always important. So, mentioned Southcote, people of Southcote, I'm certain the local community will be pleased to see this vacant building put to good use in the form of creating desperately needed affordable homes for the people of Reading, including Southcote. You may mention those words. That was in the press statement that came out about 3 weeks ago, so I thought I'd use it again tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Emberson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to add, it's really important that we make use of all space we have in the town. I've said that before, a lot of us on this side have, and I know that others support that as well, that we must look at all land we have in the town, and it makes sense to appropriate. It's a shame, as Councillor Lung has said, that it's been vacant for so long, but it just adds to our very strong local authority new build programme. We know we've been innovative with the adult social care schemes that have been tracking forward, and this adds to the more than 400 new homes that are already in the pipeline or set to be delivered. So I think it makes sense, and I'm looking forward to seeing it track if it's granted this evening by other colleagues. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Emberson. I'd only add, from a sort of Southcote perspective, the fact that this site sits at the sort of gateway to Coronation Square. which is a way of making it sound very grand indeed. And so actually to be able to bring forward the development ourselves within the housing revenue account, give us much more control over what it looks like, will have benefits for the appearance of the area, as well as those fundamentally important benefits about the delivery of many more affordable homes in Southcote and for Reading. Great that our new build council housing programme is now above 400 homes in the pipeline of delivery. It's a fantastic testament to the importance of delivering more affordable housing around the town. See no other indication, so I'm assuming we're approving this unanimously as well. Yes, a wonderful thing. Thank you very much. Takes us on to item 9. Now, item 9 and item 12 are two parts of the same report. One is presented for public consumption, the other with the detailed financial information for the closed session. So I'm assuming we will want to enter the closed session in order to discuss some of that confidential detail. But first of all, I have the Assistant Director to give an introduction to the Part 1 report.
Thank you, Chair. So this is to advise committee on the outcome exercise for marketing and disposing of the freehold of 40 Christchurch Road. The recommendation is that the property be sold to bidder A on an unconditional basis. And also recommendations that if the purchaser does not perform to an acceptable timescale, delegation be approved as outlined in the paper. So Hamilton School, formerly known as Phoenix School, a special needs school, was previously located at this property. There was a decision made to relocate the school to Hamilton Centre, and this was approved in April 2020. The school relocated in February 2022, and the property was formally handed back to the council in April 2022, at which point 40 Christchurch became surplus to requirement. The Secretary of State for Education issued consent to dispose of the property in August 2022. Our commercial agents, Haslams, were formally instructed and marketed the property for 12 weeks, with bids returned in November 2022. And we received 16 offers in total, and this included through the third sector policy as well as through the commercial agents. And it is proposed that we sell the property at freehold to bidder 8, incorporating conditions in the agreement as outlined in the paper to ensure the education provision for at least 25-year term. This is an unconditional offer, so it is not subject to planning, and it represents best market value. We have had an independent valuers confirm the offer for bidder A represents best value. Therefore, the recommendations are in accordance with the Council's Section 123 obligation and constitutes best consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Assistant Director. Anybody wanting to speak in the open session? Otherwise, I suggest we go to the closed session. No? Okay, in which case I have to move the motion printed at item 10. Go on then.
I think the officers are making, thank you, Chair. Thank you, officers. I think the officers are making the best choice given the system they have. I really wish the system wasn't stacked in a way that prioritised the most cash soonest. Then we might see some of these actually go to third sector bids based on measures of value other than market value. I think the only other point I wanted to make is on the fine print about the council purchasing places for more local provision. That is to note that this is potentially another instance of privatisation by stealth, where the council will become even more dependent on private interest delivering what we all agree is an essential service. So in my opinion...
Councillor McElroy, I'm going to stop you there because you're talking about what's in the Part 2 report.
Okay, well, I'm glad I didn't specifically say it.
But I would also challenge, so I'll just let you flick your mic off. We have made below market value disposals before, right? So it's a challenge to do it, but we have done it. So let's not pretend that we haven't done it. And let's not pretend either that this in any way constitutes privatisation of education. It's the most absurd comment. Let us move then to item 10, the exclusion of the press and the public. And I move the motion as printed. Agreed? Wonderful. In which case, We have to close the online meeting. Thank you, Michael, and I have to ask people to leave the public gallery. Thank you very much for coming.